It's a beautiful thing.
We in 6 countries. That's
yes.
What I mean. So that's the thing that stands out to me.
Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody. We love y'all.
Yes. Thank y'all for listening.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Coach Deb, representing one half of the Healing Corner podcast. If you're interested in booking a consultation as well as service or a reading, go ahead and check me out at debshealingcornerstone.com.
I'm Coach Yamz, owner of Healing is Work Coaching, and I help millennial professional women to live on purpose unapologetically and to help them to stop doing shit out of obligation. If you need help with that, reach out to me, Coach Yamz, YAMZ.com. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Healing Corner podcast. I am Coach Yamz. I am joined with my wonderful co-host, Coach Deb, and we are here to talk to you in this second episode of the month of June about mental health for men. So there are lots of awareness months that happen every month. Every month, there's always some kind of an awareness. But we chose this month to highlight men's mental health awareness, and specifically, we're focusing on Black men's mental health. And so this episode is going to be 2 reaction videos where we watch with you videos speaking to Black men's mental health and some resources. And then we're going to give our feedback along the way. And so we are ready to do this first video, which is from a TED Talk. For the record, I want to say this on the front end. Both of these videos are excellent from beginning to end. Both Coach Deb and I watched them together as we got this episode together. So we encourage you to watch the entire episodes from beginning to end. We will include those links in the show notes. So just make sure that you actually go check these out. But this first video is going to be from a TED Talk with Dr. Curtis Jasper.
Seven percent of Black men received any form of mental health services in the last couple years. Right? Black youth, particularly Black boys, are introduced with the struggle of mental health at a very early age. It's treated in elementary school by suspensions or special education referrals. So what's the Black struggle? That's it. The inadequacy of practitioners who look like Black men, who have a unique experience with mental health, right?
I think that the statistics on that is wild. You know, when you think about it, that's really wild. We've been struggling for a very long time, y'all.
And to add to that, I think that it speaks to the fact very clearly that this is a systemic issue where it's in the schools, it's ingrained in so many facets of life, this struggle that causes mental health issues in our community.
What does that mean for all of us? The current mental health industry does not sustain Black male trauma, Black male rage, Black male resentment, which means we have to look at the factors that are uniquely attributed to Black males in this country. What makes me qualified to talk about Black male mental health struggle? Well, beyond the obvious of being a Black male, I crashed in 2008, the year the mortgage industry crashed, the real estate market, right? That same year, my mother informed me she had stage 4 cancer. In 2009, I became a father for the 4th time. But this time was unique because the child was already 21 years old. which means right before my 17th birthday, I had a child. In 2010, my mother ended up passing away from cancer. I moved her from Chicago to Georgia before the diagnosis to live out her golden years under the sun of the South, to work with me and for me. She ended up passing. In 2011, I went to what I now label as a very eventful divorce. I lost everything. I walked away from everything. I lost my family, my spouse at the time away from the children, assets, things of that nature. In 2012, I experienced my very first panic attack. I found myself in the middle of a public park here in Atlanta, lying on my back, crying profusely for what seemed like hours. In 2013, I had my second panic attack. This one was different. This one, I was with the partner at the time, and she said that she overheard me saying some things that were troubling. Later on that day, I had a special event I needed to be at. My friend at the time took me to the local emergency room because as Black males, that is how we address our mental health struggles, right? When it really gets to a point, you have to see someone at the local hospital emergency room. So, of course, they kept me 72 hours, suicide watch. I missed the court date. My partner at the time took the signed medical excuse to court at the time that I was supposed to report. The judge refused it, subsequently generating a bench warrant, and I eventually had to address that. That same year, 2013, my father passed, just when we were attempting to repair a 40-plus year fragmented, fragile, broken relationship. He passed. Went to Chicago, did the mourning, came back to Atlanta. 2 days after mourning my dad's death, I was pulled over by local law enforcement. I had to settle that warrant from a few months earlier. So for the next 57 days, I sat in a jail cell, in a jumpsuit, grieving what I thought initially was only my father's death. What I now know was all of the stressors, the losses, the trauma, the rage, the resentment I had since I crashed the same year the mortgage and real estate market crashed. So during that time, I went to 5 different therapists. Now, I wasn't shy from therapy because my mother, bless her heart, she was ahead of her time. She took me to see a therapist in high school. We're talking in the 80s. The good thing is it ended up being family therapy, and we learned a lot of tools and strategies that really benefited us. But when it was my time, during 2008 to 2013, it felt differently, right? But I still went. I went to 5 different ones. The first 4, nothing. It was cool to share my struggles, but I didn't get any help. Why? Because it was irrelevant, right? The practitioners who did not look like me were culturally incompetent. They meant well. I didn't have time to teach them about my lived experiences. I needed tools and strategies. I needed them like yesterday. So after going through 4 different therapists, I gave up on therapy. I knew I was in trouble. It was evidence in my life. I still didn't know where to go. Good friend urged me to take one more attempt to finding a therapist. So I did. I found this gentleman. Walked in his office. I knew the drill, right? Sat down, poured out my heart, right? For the next 30, 35 minutes. And at the end of my spiel, the gentleman looked me in my eye and asked me this question that forever changed my life. He said, "You You ever thought about becoming a therapist? I said, man, what? Are you kidding me? I'm here.
So I think it's important to highlight here that one, having a therapist that looks like you can impact your progress in therapy sometimes. I know for me personally, I have never had a therapist that is Black. I've not. I have tried, I have like sought this out kind of. And it's just not worked out with insurance or whatever the availability is, whatever the case may be. It's just not worked out. But I don't feel like it's hindered my ability to get help, but also I've had to seek help outside of therapy. The other point I wanted to make is that this man had to go to 5 therapists to keep trying to find help. And I want that to be a testament to the fact that everybody is not for everybody. So, however, you need your therapist to look, whatever that means for you, just know that just because you try one or two, the first one or two might not be a good fit. I've had at least 8 therapists over the last years that I've been in therapy, and I've only liked about 3 of them, if we're calling a thing a thing. So, I just wanted to highlight that because it's a journey to find a therapist. And so don't be discouraged or give up.
And I just wanted to say how it's interesting how his parents, they both pretty much passed away back to back. And he was in the process of trying to heal a relationship with his father. So he probably really felt like he never got that closure, to be able to do that. So that automatically just left a lot of trauma. And then it just kept happening. More and more things started happening and building up. So this testimony is really amazing, y'all. Make sure that you watch this whole thing if you're interested in this, because he does give more detail about his personal experience as well.
And then I'll add one final thing is the fact that he had to go to the hospital to get help. And one thing I want to encourage us is we're not waiting and ignoring our bodies and our minds and the things that we need to take care of ourselves to the point to where our bodies are screaming at us and now we're having to be rushed to the ER to be carried back to health. We can take care of ourselves in smaller ways on a regular maintenance level kind of way so that we're not having to go to these extreme measures of care because we've neglected ourselves for so long.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the struggles, guys.
And I left out of his office feeling defeated, right? Devastated, right? I was pissed. Walked out of it. I said, okay, no worries. Of in a way that really touch, moves, and inspire them, right? Black males, we don't do well with one-on-one, right? We don't like isolation. We definitely don't do well with labeling. In the hood, we call that name calling. We don't do well with that, right? We don't do well with code switching when it comes to our lives, right? And we definitely don't have time to break down our lived experiences from others who need some type of explanation before they can give us some colonized version of how we need to go about healing. So I set out to create a unique experience for Black men to address the Black male mental health struggle. You see, as Black males, I found out we need some things. We know a lot. We just need it in a way that we can use our own language to get it, right? We know about breath work, right? We know about meditation. We know about yoga. We're even for the dialectical approach, the cognitive behavior approach, right? We good with relationship and individual therapy. We'd rather have it in group, barbershop. That's where we're comfortable, right? Most of us have had some type of sport, so we get the importance of breath work. We get that. We just need it to come from someone who looks like us and who has walked the walk and talked the talk, right? See, as Black males, we don't do what you say. We do what you do, right? So if you could tell us, show us, guide us, walk with us, we honor something. And that's what I did. So how does that look?
Okay. So this is just talking about what it looks like from the perspective of the Black man and how they are able to process things and be able to, you know, get through the challenges and the struggles.
And I have nothing to add here.
How does that work in terms of sustaining the existing mental health industry? Well, we have to take more of a uncolonized approach to Black mental health. We have to encourage one another that there are certain signs and symbols that are indicators of distress and not necessarily mental disorders or mental illnesses, right? But we need to be able to convey it to this unique group, Black males, who have been born under racism, because racism, aggression, and microaggression, born into that, makes something of you, right? It's exhausting. So when you start adding on debt and depression and divorce, you get the picture. You have now become exhausted, right? Not necessarily a mental illness, but things are definitely out of order, right? So that's what we need. We need the existing practitioners to become culturally competent on what this means for the people they serve. We need young college students who are Black, preferably male, to be encouraged to go into mental health, right? We need the existing Black practitioners to be amplified and elevated, right? And we need all of us to know that there is a unique experience for Black males that starts when we are born, mostly caused by racism, right? Exacerbated by unemployment, increased with PTSD symptoms due to violence, right? And it starts when we're in elementary school with suspensions and special education referrals. So I implore.
And so this part, he's going to talk about the understanding the uniqueness of the Black man. Did you have anything to say, Yams?
The only thing I'll say is that that the last clip really speaks to the fact that this is a community effort from inside of the industries that are in place with the people in place who are meant to help and serve the mental wellness of people. The onus is in the industry to make sure that their people are educated to be able to support Black people and Asian people and white people. Everybody needs to be able to be supported, and currently things have only been standardized from a white perspective.
Okay, so we'll continue.
I implore all of us to sustain the existing mental health industry. We have to take into consideration the uniqueness of the Black male mental health struggle. That goes for first responders on every level. That goes for clergy, university, teachers, students, nonprofit organizations, right? Law enforcers, lawmakers, politicians. All of us have to be re-educated on what that means uniquely for Black males and our struggle. And in the spirit of the late, great Earl DMX Simmons, in order to speak for the people, must walk amongst the people. Rest in peace, Dante Wright. Rest in peace, Adam Toledo. Rest in peace, George Floyd. Thank you.
And so for this clip, I just want to add to it that in addition to the people in the industries responsible for doing their parts from a professional standpoint, it also requires us as people, as community, to connect, and to the same way that we are making efforts to respect pronouns and learn new languages in that way, we're going to have to learn new ways of thinking about how we engage with people who don't look like us. And that's going to have to start with law enforcement, or not start with, but continue with law enforcement and all these different areas in life in which we engage with people, because everywhere you go, there's going to be people. So you got to know how to engage with the people that you're going to be in community with, lest you're going to have problems. That's just the way this is set up.
So this next one, basically, this next video is going to give you guys a lot of resources and a lot of tools that you can use to help if this is something that you're interested in. It's Dr. Tartt that we're going to be.
Alduan Tartt.
Alduan Tartt. Okay. So that's going to be the next video that we watch, you guys.
Dr. Tartt, thank you so much for joining me. Tell me, what are some of the signs that Black men should be looking for to alert them that there might be something going on with their mental health?
Not being able to sleep, difficulty, waking up, low motivation, not achieving their goals, not having fun. But what I do with men is I ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? And you'd be surprised how many men, Eboni, say 3, 4, 5. But if you ask that same man, how you doing? He'll say, I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm good. But when you ask men, it's called motivational interviewing. That number between 1 and 10, men will really open up, but they're not doing well.
Now, someone says, I'm a 5. Let's use that. At what point should they be seeking therapeutic help?
Well, let's think about growth. I mean, think about self-development. We think about therapy as something that we do when we're struggling, but the goal is to be able to evolve into your best self. People know when they're stressed, Eboni, all right? And I take that back. For a lot of Black men and Black women, it actually manifests through physical symptoms: headaches, stomach aches, gastric problems, not being able to sleep, being agitated, being irritated. People know when they're off, or their families will often tell them. So for men, this is about us being stronger, about us being well and being human.
And when...
Yes. Go ahead, Deb.
I was going to say, I think that it's really interesting how he lists those, because a lot of times people just take that as like just a regular health issue, when it could definitely be a part of your mental health. I know from it wasn't my experience, but it was a family member's experience that they went through, and they're older than me. So she went through a nervous breakdown, and she never got any type of treatment or anything for that. And I think that that's like a thing that is very important for us to know. And if you're having these health issues, it could be an underlying mental issue as well.
Which just, goes back to the point of, let's not wait until we are being rushed into the emergency to tend to ourselves. These little day-to-day kind of things that seem like basic things, all of this leads into burnout, all these other ways in which you're going to end up depleted anyway. And so taking the time to do maintenance the same way that you do maintenance on your car, where you get your oil changes and your tires rotated, we have to be intentional about doing maintenance for our bodies and our minds and our spirits.
Okay, so this next portion is like a call to action. He's going to give us a list of resources that you can use as well.
Black men in America today realizes, like you said, something's off. Either they're hearing it or they're recognizing it themselves. Let's talk tangibly, Doc. What are the action items? Who do they call? What resources, what websites do they go to? What's the first step?
Well, one, most people have insurance. So you can call your insurance provider and specify, I want to see an African-American male, African-American female, about I feel depressed, sad. Another one, you can call just 988. If you're in a crisis and you don't know what to do right now, you can call 988 and it will walk you through and link you up with services. I also like therapy for Black men. And then for men that just want to go kind of with an app, they can look at the Alchemy Health app. There's so many apps out there, and including Psychology Today, that will actually link up your insurance provider, whether you're paying cash, and you can actually go through a roster of providers and seeing their picture and figuring out what they treat, and then give them a call, get a consult, and you'll thank yourself. I can't tell you how many brothers I see on a daily basis like, whoo, this feels like a mental massage. I don't know why I delayed talking about all this stress. I feel so much better.
Indeed. As you say, Doc, a lot of people have insurance, but you mentioned the cash option. So even those that don't have insurance coverage, at least around the mental health part, many providers will provide sliding scale, reduced rates. I've heard of rates as low as $30 or $40 per session. Let's talk.
So I love that, you know, in addition to there being option for people who have insurance and allowing your insurance to work for you and exploring those options, it's also important that people know that if you don't have insurance, there are also options for you, because there was a time in which I didn't have insurance, or the insurance that I had, I didn't know how to like find the therapist, or I didn't know the things. And there was actually a clinic that I went to, and they offered sliding scale based on pay. And so it still gives you the opportunity to explore mental health options that are outside of yourself, resources outside of yourself, so that you can get the help that you may need.
Okay. And so this next part, they're going to actually tell you what therapy is like. So for those of you who have never been to therapy, he's going to kind of explain to you what it would look like if you were to go to therapy.
About these sessions, Doc. Some people have never been to therapy. We hear about it, but what's it like? Can you kind of pull back the curtain and describe what typically goes on in a therapy session?
Eboni, imagine a place where you don't have to have pretense. You don't have to fake on social media. You don't have to worry about anyone talking about your business, because you can just straight sue us. I'm going to be honest. You don't have to trust me. We're bound by HIPAA. We're bound by confidentiality in our ethics board not to talk about what you say. So you have a place where you can just lay down your burdens. You can talk about what's going on. And you can also talk about, you know what? I want to level up to the next level. I'm in a relationship with a woman and I feel like she's doing well, and I want to be able to match that energy, but I don't know how to say that to her. All right, how do I have that conversation? And so men that come in actually try to overutilize the service, because then let me talk about what happened at 9. Let me talk about my aunt. Can I bring my brother in? Can I bring my sister in? Can I resolve my issue with my mom? It really is a blessing and a benefit to be able to talk to someone who's trained, non-judgmental, and also knows how to help you resolve depression, anxiety, stress, whatever, marital issues, infidelity, whatever it is. Just have a place to be well. So it's something that every brother should experience.
Indeed. And that is therapy, I think clinically known as talk therapy. Talk a little.
All right. So for this next part, they're going to talk about other forms of therapy outside of talk therapy, because that was talk therapy that he was talking about here. Would you want to say, Yamz?
I was just going to say that I like how he highlighted that therapy is not just for when you're in trouble. Oftentimes people think of therapy as a solution to a problem and a problem only. And it can be, again, about maintenance and making sure that you're going on a path that feels aligned with the direction that you're trying to go in. Therapy can help be a resource for that, accountability, if you will.
A little bit, if you can, Doctor, around where for some people the talk therapy is great, but there's more intervention maybe that needs to be had, maybe through the form of an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. Talk a little bit about the role that pharmaceuticals can play into this work.
Right. I mean, the first line of defense is going to be exercise, because exercise produces 5 chemicals that are often found in these medications. But there will be times where your body just won't respond. Your mama had depression. Your daddy had depression. We might have called it a nervous breakdown. We might have called it a case of the nerves. We might have called it just going 0 to 100 real quick. All right. But if you're not responding to just talk therapy, the combination of medication and talk therapy to help you feel better is what's recommended. And then depending on what you're taking, a lot of doctors will begin to wean you off of the medication after you start to do well and start to accomplish the things that are bothering you. But then again, there's always going to be that biological component. And if you need medication to help you feel well, try it out. And this is all about you being the best man you can be, not the worst, not taking down your wife, not taking down your children, not isolating, not thinking about not being here. This is about strength and manhood.
Indeed. And I want to just host.
I love that how he allowed space for that, because especially now, if y'all have been paying attention to the news and how there's a lot of people being taken out of here unalived because of mental health. You know, you've heard stories of a man taking his whole family out, his girlfriend or wife and his kids, you know, and, you know, if they could have gotten help, you just imagine how many people would have been prevented from a devastation.
Agree. Unaddressed anger and rage manifest in violence oftentimes. And so to not do a thing with it means that it's going to build up and eventually might explode like a volcano, be it on somebody else or on yourself. And we don't have to live that way. We have options available to us. The other thing I wanted to add to that is he spoke about the possibility of prescription medication. And I know that oftentimes people feel weird about medication. And I just want to say that there is no shame in taking medication. I've not personally taken medication for this realm of things, but I've encouraged others too, because there's nothing wrong with having something chemically help get you back to a baseline so that you can then get on an even footing and start moving forward. And sometimes a little medicine might not be a bad idea, and it's not got to be a permanent solution.
And I wanted to say something about medication. I've never taken it myself, but I know a close relative that has. And sometimes it takes multiple times for you to get it adjusted, because I know this particular family member, he was getting too much. And this was a Black man. And he was getting too much medication and they needed to lower his dose. So don't be afraid if you do go on medication and it messes you up to the point you can't function, to go back in and tell them you need to get it adjusted, because you know, sometimes it can be off balance with just the medication too as well. So I wanted to say that part as well. This next part, he's going to talk about like kind of what it looks like, how long you have to be in therapy, or what, you know, some people want to know, like, how long am I going to have to be in therapy? So the doctor's going to kind of explain that to us here.
With that, doctor, before you go, I do want to ask you, you talked about weaning off of the medication in that hypothetical. Some people aren't sure. I've been having this conversation with friends of mine in group chats. How long are you supposed to be, quote, in therapy, right? Or is that something that should be ongoing? Do you set a destination? I'm going to do therapy for 6 months. What does a timeline around therapy look like, if there even is one?
It depends. Most people come in until they get symptom relief, but then a lot of people start using it like coaching. Like, okay, now that I dealt with that depression, you know what? I'd actually like to address this anxiety about going into business for myself. So there's brief therapy models. There's medium therapy models, and there's long term. A lot of people use therapy as a way to have support because they don't have anyone to talk to. So brothers often start in therapy and then they graduate to life coaching because they like to grow, they like to build. And men are happiest when they're pursuing their passions and feel alive and having positive accomplishments.
Well, we love to see it. Dr. Alduan Tartt, we so appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the ending of our videos.
Yes. And like you said, that sometimes it looks like being in therapy and saying, I want to keep on advancing this. I'm working with a life coach. Guess what, guys? I'm a life coach. If you need me, contact me. chatwithyamz, YAMZ.com is where you can book a 10-minute call to see if us working together even makes sense. I just had to plug me real quick. But yes, this is all of the video and reaction that we have, unless Deb has final thoughts, which we'll do that. But we just wanted to hold space for men's mental health, Black men specifically, and provide resources so that you can find your community and find resources and tools that you can actually action so that you can take care of yourself, because you are going to be able to take the best care of you, but also you got to know how to do that. And so we wanted to make that information available to y'all in this episode. Deb, you got any takeaways or anything you want to leave with the people?
I just want to thank whoever it is that put together these videos. We appreciate you for even putting out information for the collective, everybody to be able to have access to. We will leave information in the description box too, guys. If you want to watch the full video, make sure y'all check out the full videos.
Yes. And then, of course, the Healing Corner podcast always welcomes likes, shares, subscribes, people filling out the guest form so that you can come be our guest, so that we can have your stories on the show, so that you can share your experiences and help other people learn and grow how to be better versions of themselves. Because guess what? None of us knows what the hell we're doing. We are all figuring this out as we go. And we do it better and faster and more, fun when you do it with other people who are your people. So find your people, love on yourself, love on your people, and take care of yourselves. Until next time, y'all.